What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock and what you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to break down why today was a pretty insane day. We saw the market gap down pretty hard off high PPI. Inflation is still very high from the producer side. Then on top of that, we ended up getting a bit of a rally as the day went on. I did mention this being a possibility because of the market makers. Then all of a sudden the Fed came. One of the Fed officials known as Bullard came out and he just smacked the market right down. So I'm going to break down what this means, why we should be very, very careful during times like these, and why you should actually watch out for what's about to come. Now, before I break anything down about this, before I talk about how all of the news that's coming out will affect NIO and what I do predict to happen to NIO, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Make sure you take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire NIO community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each valued at up to $3,000, and any could be a free NIO or Tesla share. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in just 12 days. Make sure you check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So looking at the market is actually seeing a bit of a rug pull. We did see the market get smacked down. That's after Bullard said that a 50 basis point rate hike is on the table for the next Fed meeting. Why is he saying that? Because inflation is hot. It's way too hot again. And I did mention in my video from yesterday that PPI is coming out. It's going to be very important. The Fed's reaction is also going to be very important too. So let's talk about the numbers. All right. So in the morning, an hour before the market opened, that's the reason why we gapped down on a lot of the futures and a lot of big ETFs. We gapped down because PPI month over month was supposed to be 0.4%. Right. And if you don't know what PPI is, it's basically like CPI, except from the producer side, meaning it's the producer price index. It's a measure of inflation for the producer side. So, anyways, we wanted 0.4% and we got 0.7%, almost twice as high as what we wanted. That's the month over month growth. That is hot, very hot. On top of that, core PPI month over month, we wanted 0.3%. We got 0.5%, even hotter than expected, almost twice as hot as what we wanted. So both core and the overall number are hot. Not good for the markets. We had initial jobless claims that came out. We wanted 200,000 of those claims. We only got about 194,000, so a little bit lower than expected, meaning the jobs market is still hot. So the jobs market is hot. Inflation is still hot. This is not what you want if you want to bring down inflation. And the Fed have a lot of work to do. Now, also, PPI year over year was supposed to be 5.4%. It ended up being 6%. It was hot again. Core PPI was supposed to be 4.9% year over year. It was 5.4%. Do you guys see this? It's way too hot. This is telling us we're at risk of seeing another wave of high inflation. The jobs market is way too hot. Not good. The Fed are incentivized to be hawkish, to rug pull the markets, to continue tightening. There's a lot of work to be done, and they are not going to pivot anytime soon. We have a lot of time to go until that actually happens, right? So please be very careful. Please, please, please. Now, I also want to note that in the beginning, the market gapped down, then it started to rally. Why? Because of the crazy manipulation. We saw lots of market makers propping up the markets. They started buying and buying and buying. We also saw some more individuals buying into it. The market was being illogical as it has been over the last couple of weeks. And then all of a sudden, the Fed came. And I mentioned this yesterday. I warned you all about this yesterday. The Fed speakers are going to come. They could cause a reaction. And if they say something that's like really, really huge, the whole market could react. I told you it's going to be crazy. And I mentioned to everyone I expected a red day. I thought the Fed would end up smacking us back down if we did get a rally. And that is what ended up happening. Why? In the beginning, it was Mester speaking. We had other Fed officials. They didn't really do much. Bullard comes up there. Bullard starts talking. And then Bullard smacks the whole market down by saying that the Fed is actually open to raising the federal funds rate by 50 basis points because inflation is hot. He said there's a lot of tightening that still has to be done. The Fed is going to be restrictive. He's saying that there's so much more that the Fed is prepared for. You have to be prepared for anything. And 50 basis points is on the table. The market has not priced that in. The market was not ready for that. That is why the market got smacked down at the end. They were not ready for that. And that also dragged NIO down. NIO did something very similar to what I predicted. I told you all that NIO should get a pop and approach. My prediction was about 10.8. We got stopped at 10.6, so very close, maybe not extremely close, but somewhat close. Then I told you we'd likely see a bit of a sell-off and some interesting volatility. NIO did end up selling off, but it didn't sell off as much as I thought. I thought we'd be just a little bit red. We're down almost 3%, and that's because of what just happened with Bullard. Now, when it comes to NIO, hold on. Volume 33 million, so we have not as much volume as usual. As far as the dark pools go, I don't really show this on my channel enough, but I also want to note that NIO is quite manipulated like a lot of stocks in the markets. When it comes to the options chain, there's a lot of calls that are bought. We have a relatively low put to call ratio, but when it comes to exchange volume, this is what I wanted to note. 44% of trades were on off-lit exchanges. Very interesting stuff. Continuing to manipulate this stock, at least to some degree. We also are seeing, in my opinion, NIO still underperforming relative to the market. Many analysts are saying, hold on to your NIO shares. Don't give up on it. Hold on to them, right? That's actually very ambiguous. People could have different views, but once again, still a decent sign. NIO tends to be green 53% of the time on Fridays, but we are seeing an interference that might slow the markets down. And on top of that, I want to note that we do have a big announcement that was made for NIO, and that is NIO announced that they have a very important earnings conference call at 7 o'clock a.m. U.S. Eastern Time on March 1st. They just made the announcement today. So mark your calendars for March 1st. We have some big announcements coming out for NIO during the next earnings conference. Now, I want to note for tomorrow for the markets, okay? If you were watching some live data, I know I can't really show it right now, but I just want to note there were a lot of big put sweep orders on SPY and etc. for that 406 area. What's interesting is today the market is going to close a little below max pain, but we close just at max pain every other day. From last Friday to Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we closed at or above max pain. This week, we're going to be a little below it after the market got a shock because of Bullard. And I don't see the market rallying very hard. I think a lot of people are now going to be on the edge. And I do believe sentiment is going to shift now because of the Fed being more hawkish, because Bullard is saying 50 basis points is on the table. And max pain for tomorrow is 405 on SPY. There are 3.3 million puts out of the money. Now, the market makers had a lot of control. They were manipulating the stocks and stopping the market from crashing, right? They were stopping the market from getting a big hit. And what's happening now is they're actually causing the market to hold the levels we're currently at, but they don't have as much control like before. Market makers, yes, they're strong. They're definitely very strong. They can control how markets move, but they're not everything. You have to remember that. They're not everything that there is to the market. And I do believe there are lots of big bears out there that might want to drag the markets down. They're angry because look at that. We have 3 million puts out the money. Do they really want that? So I do believe the odds are favoring downside for tomorrow. A little bit more downside. I don't know if it's going to be like a huge crash, but I do believe the market's going to slow down a bit. Tomorrow, I think we might get a pop since we are kind of oversold here. We might get a small pop and try to get back to around this 410 area on SPY, maybe a little bit higher. Then I'm anticipating a rejection, a retest of 408, and we're likely going to fail. We're likely going to fail at 408, and we're going to see this thing slowly come down to this 405 area. We might come a little lower and then maybe close around 405, 406, around there. As I mentioned before, guys, I saw the orders coming out. Big money was ready for it. Up here, when SPY was at 412, there were a lot of the sellers that came out. We saw lots of big orders. We saw lots of put sweeps. They came out right here. They knew something was about to drag us down. They knew. And that's exactly what just happened. So what does this mean for NIO? NIO's in a very interesting state because NIO does have a tendency of seeing lots of buyers coming in at $10. So I believe that NIO, and we do have a possible head and shoulders that developed here. I do believe NIO has downside to come. We might try to pop a little bit into open, get above 10.3. But after that, I think NIO is going to come all the way back down to $10. That's what this is telling me. And I don't know if we're going to break below it or not because we do see lots of buyers step in. If we fell at 10, watch 9.7, then 9.5. But I do believe the bottom line is NIO has some downside for tomorrow. I'm going to be watching the $10 area very carefully. So anyways, that's what I have for this video. I want to thank you all so much for listening. Have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. NIO to the moon because the long-term future is still incredibly bright, and peace out.